Welcome back to the Love Lizzy podcast. I am here with the very special Dr. Erin. This is a special episode to me because Erin here has basically given me new life, and we're going to talk really deeply about how she's been a pillar of my healing journey over the last year, but then also finally having this modality and this way for me to heal things that came way before this year, and to really look deep into why my body was behaving the way it was, why I was having inflammation and illness, and to really understand that journey for myself. She holds the craziest amount of space. She's going to talk to us about her practice, the Sacred Illness Community, how she became the leader of this movement that she has created, and how she's helping women everywhere with their chronic illnesses, and just her personal journey. I'm so excited. Dr. Erin, thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Whenever I do a podcast, I could talk about this forever and ever and ever and ever, because it's part of the mission is just to get this out there. So thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were a trained naturopath and you were living in this medical world. You yourself had this personal journey of going to school and training and beginning to work in this thing that you kind of revered and thought would be your journey. And then you kind of woke up and had a lot of realizations. Can you kind of take us to that moment and walk us to where we are today?
So much of my journey was about being a people pleaser, and which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, but basically doing what I thought I had to do and was supposed to do. I got into what I do because I also was sick. I had a chronic autoimmune disease and went on a journey to figure out how to heal it, which led me to all the things that I ended up studying and got to where I got to. As part of healing that journey, I was recognizing like, oh, I'm a major people pleaser. I don't know who I am. I'm who everyone wants me to be. I healed so much of that. And I feel like the final like boss level was figuring out how to heal that within my business, because as I was healing myself personally, I was learning the mind-body connection and recognizing, oh, the way I think and feel about myself and show up in the world is what's making me sick. It's not genetics, it's not my diet. Those things maybe play a role, but they were not the thing that healed me. Like changing those things did not change my body. I was working on the people pleaser stuff interpersonally, but it didn't feel like I could do that in my work. Like I felt like, well, I went to school to be a naturopath. People expect me to do labs and supplements and medications and be like the alternative doctor. That's what they expect of me. So I have to do that. And so I did that for 5 years. During that time, I was dissatisfied. Like I was successful. I was like working in a really busy practice. I had a lot of patients. I was making a lot of money. You know, it's sort of like the ideal, like, oh, look, you made it. You're successful. I was ticking all those exterior boxes, but I felt really dissatisfied because all of my patients, like they were getting better because they were taking all these supplements and had these like really strict diet changes. And it was like they had to do things that were, for all intents and purposes, sort of burdensome in order to maintain their health. And it was like a maintenance thing. It wasn't getting them to a place of like, I actually feel like it's gone or eradicated or healed. It was like, I'm maintaining this thing, which is great. You know, and I think there's something to be said about just getting to a place where you feel more even keel and symptom-free. Deep down, knowing what it took for me to heal, like on that deeper level, I was like, why? Like I know there's more to this. And so I kept trying to get my patients. I would like try to sneak in mind body stuff. I'd be like, so how was your childhood? Or, you know, like stuff like that. And they'd be like, oh no, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. And so I could never like get people there. So I had to like come to Jesus about it and just decide like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to switch to mind body medicine because I know that's at the root of what is going on with these people. I know that's the thing that's going to take them all the way because it's what took me all the way. And apparently I can't do both, because if people are coming to me wanting dietary changes and supplements and I'm trying to talk to them about their mental health and that mind-body connection, it's not meeting their needs. That's not why they're coming to me. I realized I had to just sort of specialize and just be like, this is who I am. This is what I do. It was scary because I lost probably 70% of my clientele. I had to like rebuild from scratch. But it was just this feeling of like knowing on a personal level and then just knowing these people and getting to know them over several years, something is missing and I'm never going to get them to where I know they can get in their health if I keep being a people pleaser and being who they need me to be and being who they want me to be, like, you know, meeting that expectation of the naturopathic doctor. So I had to abandon all of that and start fresh.
I imagine there's a lot of people listening that are in one life and they're thinking about the life they actually want. Family, career, love, location, geography. I know you just made a big move. It's always many moments until there's a final moment of I just cannot go back anymore to the way I was behaving.
The person who comes to mind, I'll just call her Jane. I had a small handful of patients who were willing to kind of start doing the mind-body stuff with me while I was still being more of a traditional naturopath. She was one of them because she was coming to me for chronic pain and a few other things. We were doing stuff that was, again, sort of helping her feel somewhat more functional, whatever. And I was like, listen, can I just like pull out my massage table and like get you on the table and do some like mind, body, hands-on somatic work and just see what happens. And she was like, sure, why not? Because like nothing else is happening. We did some somatic work. She had this experience of like feeling stabbed in the back. It's not always metaphorical and literal, but for her it was like a feeling of being stabbed in the back by her sister. And so we did this whole somatic thing of like pulling the knife out and like freeing her from that like experience. Literally her pain was gone in that session. And she was like, what the hell just happened? I was like, I don't know, but that was amazing. And it's not always instantaneous like that. I've been working with her for a year. We've done all these other things. And we have this one session where we actually like talk to her body and start to get into like, what is actually this pain all about? Moments like that just were proof to me of like, you just have to yank the chain and make the transition.
And then that pain relief sustained.
Yeah.
So many of the critics' thoughts are coming into my head because as someone who has believed in energy work and the power of emotions, both positive and negative, and really kind of living a more multidimensional life, but within the mask of the modern world, like just masking for what the modern world would accept of me, I can hear the own critics in my head that come from my fear of what people would say about me if I stepped wholly into my belief system, which is like, so these people are just psychologically ill. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. But like, that's not it.
That's like the number one critique I get. And like, it's some version of that or some version of like, so you're blaming the person, for basically holding that in their body and not dealing with it appropriately or not expressing their emotions. So you're saying it's their fault. The way I always think about this is that, first of all, most of what I'm finding trapped in people's bodies that's leading to illness is stuff that happened when we were kids or young enough to where we didn't know better. We didn't have the resources. We didn't have the capacity. We didn't have the skills. Sometimes it's like in utero stuff. Sometimes, we're infants. It's like, how can you blame someone who all they can do is rely on their caretakers or rely on whatever is happening around them? So I think that's like my first and biggest pushback against that is we adapt to life given what we're given. Maybe put all of this into like a bigger framework. When I work with people's symptoms, my goal is to figure out what is the body holding, like what got stuck in the system that the body is trying to make sense of or deal with, and eventually that produces a symptom. Usually it is some sort of traumatic event or limiting belief or an experience that taught the person who I am just sort of inherently is not safe. And so I have to change myself in some way, shape, or form in order to be safe and to get my needs met and to survive.
That's all happening unconsciously.
So that's another key piece, is that a lot of times we just think it's who we are, right? Because it's like how we adapted when we were young, and it just becomes sort of like our idea of self. And again, a lot of that is happening when we are unable to do anything else. I have to suppress my anger or else I'm going to get beat up by my parent. That also threatens my attachment to the people who feed me and house me and like meet my needs that I can't meet otherwise. That's all unconscious too. Like obviously we don't have that wherewithal when we're kids, but our nervous system is wired for survival. And so our nervous system is always like, what gets our needs met and keeps us safe and what doesn't? And whatever doesn't, stop doing it. Like get rid of it, thwart it, or like suppress it, like minimize it, ignore it. Those things don't just disappear. It's part of who we are. Our emotions, our like innate characteristics, our personality. You can't get rid of those things, but we can bury them. And that's what happens is we bury them. We bury them deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And the body's like, okay, I'll hold this for you until you're ready to hold it again. But over time, the illness starts to happen. My brand is called Sacred Illness. Like everything is built around this idea of illness being sacred, because ultimately when we start to tune into illness in this way, we're finding ourselves again. It's not a negative thing. It's a wake-up call, right? It's like your body being like, okay, you had to do that to survive. Now you are being invited to pull that back out to the surface because the world needs you. So it's not mental illness. It's not your fault. It's sort of part of the reality of your life and how you had to adapt. If anything, it's wise and intelligent, and it was crucial. You had to do that, and it was very smart of you to do that. Your body was so smart to figure out how to manage what you were going through to get to you to where you are. And now it's this invitation to come back to that person, to return back. I'm always trying to change the paradigm in how we're thinking about illness and how we're thinking about working with illness.
I had chronic ear infections my entire life to a point where I basically lived on antibiotics. And those antibiotics then destroyed my gut biome, which led to me seeking out different modalities and practitioners to heal my gut, but separate from my ear because it wasn't holistic. It was sectioned off. I think what I learned most through our work is that the way I treat myself when I'm getting symptoms and the way I handle those symptoms was the power I had to change it. You were never asking me to like go back and take some kind of accountability for things that were never my accountability. You weren't pushing me to make it about other people, although at times I did that out of habit because that was safer growing up. And so to focus on myself so distinctly felt really the antithesis of who I am. And I remember growing up in my family being like, you need more self-preservation. You're so sensitive. And I kept being like, I really like myself and I don't really want to be anything than really sensitive and thoughtful and loving. I like it. So why is everyone yelling at me? I don't know what I did wrong. I'm just loving as hard as I know how. But I think what they couldn't say that you helped me understand what they meant was, I got to be first. When I went into surgery last year, before I met Dr. Erin, I still was not available for me being the number one priority. And the thing that my loved ones were trying to get me to see, they never gave me a behavior change platform for. They were asking me to build a skill that I knew I could feel it I needed, which was self-preservation, self first, take care of yourself, then you can take care of other people. But I had no practice doing that. My whole life was about other people. A lot of what you designed and built in the sacred illness community, this step by step, clearly laid out path to achieving the outcome I was looking for, to be healthy and strong and self-loving and available to put myself first without the fear of all the things that used to come up when I tried to do that, was so different than anything I had experienced. When I first started with you, myself had questions about, well, Teresa, have you just found another person who's sensitive like you, and now she's just going to enable you to believe this thing? Maybe you'll just feel good for a few months. But as I moved through the tools and the practice and how precise the tools are for the thing I was feeling, like the seeing and the knowing that you bring to our experience, was just so specifically what I needed. How did you go about building this classroom?
It's something that I've reflected on because sometimes I'm like, how did I make this? I feel like there was like two major things that led me to creating the blueprint. One was a coach who said, your story is like what everything should be built around. As a people pleaser, I was always focused on everyone else and what I could do for everyone else. And she was like, but your story is the blueprint. Your story is what like gives you the street credit of like how you can help people because you did it yourself. The second big thing or shift or whatever that led me to creating that blueprint was one of those like bro coach dudes. And he had this thing of write down everything you know, everything you talk to people about, everything you've learned that is crucial to what's your mission. So I wrote down literally everything that I've talked to people about, that I pull into my sessions, that I did on my own journey, and threw it up on this huge poster. And then he was like, okay, now make a journey out of it. Like, what are the steps? What's the first thing people need to understand to get to this like goal that you want people to get to? And then how does all this stuff you've learned fall into place? And that became the blueprint. What did I learn on my journey? And then what have I learned through my like very, very long educational journey? And put it all together, and here you go. A lot of it came from working with people too. Like, you know, there's concepts on like surrender and forgiveness and acceptance, and those things came up more personally in my one-on-one sessions of like, we're facing this obvious need for you to forgive yourself. We need more gratitude. Or so those kinds of concepts came more from working with people. But the arc and the concepts and the big pillars came from all that other stuff. I feel like it was like a moment in time where I was like just dialed in and got it all on paper, because now when I look back, I'm like, oh, wow.
The blueprint is a course in a way, but it's more than a course, but it does have lessons. And it takes you through the themes that Erin has tested and tried on herself and others that have been effective. So Erin, for us, can you just tell me the main pillars of the blueprint? What is that journey?
I think of it as a hero's journey. When we go on a healing journey, we're going on a hero's journey, which means we're like going into the unknown, and we face challenges, and we have to like battle all the bad guys. And then when we come back, we're different. You know, something happens where we realize I'm being called into a journey, and it's up to me if I want to answer it. Like, there's this major pivot point in our life, and I feel like I'm being pulled into something different. I would say most of us, when we get our diagnosis, we're not like, oh, I'm being called into something bigger. I think that often comes when we've tried all the traditional things and we just keep hitting dead end after dead end after dead end. And then we're like, what the hell is this about? There's got to be something more to this. Like, that was me. I was like, I refuse to accept that I'm going to be this sick. And I was 20 when I got diagnosed. I'm like, I'm not going to take like 15 pills a day. I'm not going to get surgery. Like, this is not going to be my life. And so that's when we answer the call, deciding I'm going to go on this adventure. I don't know where it's taking me, but I just know that the path that I have been on is not working. So I'm going to change gears.
That's a perspective shift, right?
Yes.
That's the choice. So it's almost like the first thing that someone has to do if they're ready to get healthy and take total control. And I'm not trying to say that you working with the medical system in any traditional sense was not you trying to take total control. Right. But I can tell you the difference of the vibration between taking one of Erin's classes versus trying to be on hold with the healthcare company so they can approve my freaking surgery or whatever, working her system versus the lack of control I feel in the medical system is like a stark enough contrast that from day one, I was like, okay, you need me to switch my perspective from, man, I'm sick and I need all these people to help me, to like, man, I'm sick and I'm going to take total control of that, even though I don't know what it means. Like, it was a mercy play. It was like, totally. Okay, girl, yep. I surrender. But it also was like a choice that someone has to make. The first thing someone can do is just maybe make the choice to try the new perspective.
Yep, totally. People often will ask me, what's one thing you would say to like help them get started? And I always say curiosity. Like, just, you don't have to do it. You don't have to commit to it. You don't even have to believe in it. It's just like, can you be curious that another way might be possible? Because again, we know what happens when we do the conventional medicine path. Like, we know where that takes us. It's pretty predictable. I think that's why a lot of us like it, because we like predictability. That feels safe. The doctor tells me to take this pill. I take this pill. He schedules my surgery. They do this. We know what's going on here. It's an invitation to get curious that maybe something else could be possible. It's not like either you do medicine this way or you do it my way. No, you can do both. 99.9% of the people I work with are doing both. They're on medications. Some have surgery. One person has an organ transplant coming up. The goal of this path isn't to close yourself off from the world and like do it yourself, because I think that can be part of our pathology too, of I can't trust anything. I have to do it myself. It's about when you open yourself up to this other path and you trust yourself and you know that you are empowered to kind of decide where this journey goes, then the pieces fall into place way differently. People can start to trust that their chemotherapy is here to help them versus feel like, oh shit, I have no option and this is going to kill me. It's like, I know why my cancer is here and I know chemo is going to help me move this through my body in a different way. So it's like a completely different change in that perspective too. It's not dogmatic. It's not either or, nothing like that.
I think one of the reasons I resonated a lot with your messaging that got me to book the call is that I watched my mom deteriorate from the medicine they told her was going to keep her alive. And granted, It kept her alive. My mom was alive by some measure at some of those times, but the fight that my mom had to go through for the cost of chemo, the cost of radiation, it wasn't my mother. Fully embodied, fully alive. It really was this kind of like tunnel of closed off, like this is your route and this is what you have to do. And as someone who had to watch her literally fight for her life and still not really get it, that put a really bad taste in my mouth. So entering the medical system as a child who experienced that for her whole life and now needing really intense care. I had just told myself if I did all the things that they tell me to do and I followed all these really great diets and everything, like I would be the healthiest person. I would never die like my mother.
Yeah.
And then here I am like faced with an emergency surgery. And I'm like, now I have no choice but to give my life over to these people that I don't know. I don't know their value system. I don't know their medical philosophy. And as I was there and I got really great surgical care, I will be very honest, I got incredible surgical care. I did not get holistic care. The questions I had about body movement, nutrition, mental health, all the things that I knew were interwoven with what I was experiencing, it was like a no comment zone. Take care of yourself. Go under for surgery. Here's a pamphlet about how you're going to feel in 2 weeks. I've given you pharmaceutical grade opioids to heal yourself, but I've not talked to you about what it means to put those in your body when you've never done that before. Like gap after gap after gap. And I, as a people pleaser, I don't want to ruffle feathers. This guy just gave me this surgery. Like he's been doing this for 20 years. Like let me defer. But I was still so sick in so many ways. So I really do love to say to other people who are experiencing this, like the mistrust of the system is valid and warranted. And there are incredible doctors everywhere. So it is both and. But if you have felt as if your doctor doesn't have the time, capacity, or care to wrap themselves around your life, and not just give you the surgery, or the Band-Aid, or the medicine, and then send you home and go to their next patient because they only have 4 minutes to talk to you. Yeah. Like that is the work I feel like Erin is closing the gap on. And it's not all you're doing, but it's a huge component of what you do.
The way I think of it is like at the very least, they have tools that we can't access without them. And sometimes they're tools that we need to access. We know to lower our expectations around that system and be pleasantly surprised if it's anything more than that, than just them giving us a tool. Knowing that the bar is pretty low in terms of the like quality of care that we get aside from the tool that they're providing. I think that's where that empowerment comes in of like, okay, I am in my body. I am in communication with my illness. I am in communication with what's behind it and where I'm going with it and who it's asking me to become and all of those kinds of things. And I know from this deep, intuitive, aligned, safe place that I've gotten to with my body that this surgery or this pill or this tool is a necessary part of my healing journey. And so then we can go into it and be like, okay, whatever, thanks for your time. Give me the thing, bye. You know, like, and we then have our own relationship with the tool and can sort of learn how to have better boundaries or like psychic boundaries around their energy and their attitude and how they are or are not showing up for us, because we're just like seeing it differently of like, they're just the person who gives me this tool. Again, if they're like anything above and beyond that, great. But I'm not going to have that expectation because I know a lot of the times the system is going to fail me in that way. It's like taking our power back and not relying on them to create the safety that we need in order to heal, and instead finding that safety from within because we know what's going on. I think so much of what feels unsafe is we put, understandably, it's like kind of how it should be, that we can like put it into their hands and be like, take care of me. You're a doctor. Take care of me. That's not the system. And so we have to kind of take that back and be like, I'm going to figure this out, build my support team around me that's not just relying on this one person, but then I can create that safety that I need to heal without just, you know, putting all my eggs in that basket.
Through this work, you empowered me to be more curious about my options. Even if I didn't change a surgeon or switch anything, giving me the modality to learn how to take total control over my health and really know what that means for me, because it's different than the person next to me. Because there were moments, Dr. Erin, where I was sitting in one of the doctor's office before I found the right surgeon that could identify what was going on with me. And I remember feeling like the pace they were going was not fast enough for what I was experiencing. And I remember talking myself out of asking the question, are you sure 2 weeks from now is quick enough for me to get the information about the CT scan? But I was like, no, this is the doctor. This is their protocol. This is what they do. And I can tell you within 48 hours of getting home, Erin, the pain in my body went from a 9 to a 15.
Oh, man.
And it was debilitating. And I had to call from a place of desperation and fear and confusion and go, I need to see someone. I did a CT scan 2 days in your office. It's 2 weeks before I'm on your calendar again. This is not okay. I am not okay. Please help me. what an awful place to make a phone call from,
Totally.
And I don't blame the Teresa that was standing in that office doing what she's done her whole life, which is deferring and being like, I just want to be the easy patient. I'm not going to hear yelling from me. I'm not going to negotiate my bill. I'm going to be a good citizen.
Yes.
And meanwhile, it nearly cost me my life. I feel like one of the tools of this work, whether you're having a surgery or facing a medical crisis, is just that it builds this voice in you, this knowing that is like, wait a minute, I didn't like how that felt. I don't want to feel that again. Let me go get curious about what my options are. And those options are still medical. It's still the medical system, but it led me to a different set of solutions that I didn't have in the first place. Now, let's say I've chosen this perspective. I'm going to get curious about it. I'm going to believe, even though I don't believe yet, that maybe I have power here. And then what am I going to do? What's the next step in the blueprint?
The next step is called cross the threshold. So this is when the hero commits to the journey, right? They're like, okay, I'm not turning back. I'm moving forward. I'm doing this work. And usually that's when we find how we're going to do it. Like for you, it was finding my program, or for others, it's finding a different facilitator or a book or something, right? It's just finding that thing that's like, okay, I'm committing to this path and this is the thing I'm going to do to kind of cross this threshold into this unknown. And that's really what begins the journey is I'm moving into this unknown space. I don't know where this journey is going. I just know that I'm committing to it. The next step of the journey I call meet your shadow. And that's where we start to meet basically all of the things that we've been holding in our body. And we start to understand more. A lot of us have already done a lot of the like trauma work and therapy. So we already know a lot of our stuff, like what's being held in our body. So I think of meet your shadow, meeting the shadow within, like all of the things that we're holding in our body, as just kind of seeing it or meeting it from this more body perspective. It's like, okay, I know what my trauma is, but what is my body specifically holding that's manifesting as illness? What is that? What is contained within that? This is where stuff starts to get uncomfortable. I often say the journey is more uncomfortable initially for quite a while until we start to like really get to the end of it. There's just something about going in and talking to the body specifically where you're like, oh, this is a lot. This is something that I actually pulled in from Joe Dispenza, his whole thing of like break the habit of being yourself by just becoming the new person. And I was doing that. And honestly, I was getting sort of traumatized by it because there were so many reasons I wasn't that person. And it was my shadow stuff, like there's a reason I'm not that person that I envision. So in my journey, as we're meeting our shadow, my next step is, who do you want to become? What is that vision? Write your vision statement, not as a way to sort of gaslight yourself into just being that person, but as a way to continue to facilitate your shadow work. For me, a lot of this is like education. The first part of the journey is a lot of education, nervous system education, mind-body education. Then you start to do your vision work, and then that's really where you get your specific stuff. So the next step for me is face your fear. You're kind of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the belly of the beast. Here's all the really deep stuff as to like why I'm not that person and all of the things that are blocking me. This to me is like the heart of the program. After you start to really pull up those really specific root things in your body, the next step for me is what I call Rewire Your Reality, which is where you start to do reprogramming work to replace those old stories with new ones. I feel like I walk this line between woo-woo and things that are just rooted in like neuroscience and mind-body medicine science, where we know we can reprogram the nervous system, we can rewrite the stories that our nervous system is holding so that we can kind of update it to present day. Like, okay, you had to hold these things in your body and respond when you were a kid. That was survival. You don't have to do that now. And so this whole section is about what are you holding and how do we release it so your body can update to the new reality, and then start to kind of move into that vision statement more and more and more, like becoming who you came here to be. So after people are doing this work, eventually you get to this place called the abyss. It's basically like this pivot point between who you were, you no longer are that person, but you're not yet who you are becoming. You're in this liminal space of like, things are shifting, but I'm not yet there. And this is where we have to sort of surrender to this idea of, I know that I'm becoming something. I know I'm releasing something. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it's coming. So we have to sort of just wait for things to start to fall into place. So that's the last really challenging phase of this journey before then we do start to like gain some traction and stuff starts to shift. The interesting thing about this work, every time I work with someone, without fail, when they're in that sort of rewiring / abyss phase, stuff starts to happen in their lives that like perfectly help them start to shift into this new life. For example, like someone got fired when I was working with them. And it's not always like huge life altering events. Like sometimes it's just like, I didn't get the raise that I wanted, and that's enough for me to understand that this job is no longer correct for me. Or my landlord is selling the house. The universe is just like, okay, let's play ball.
Like you let go of control. So now we're going to make things happen because you've relinquished. For the sake of the exercise, let's take my modality. I always put others before myself. I was very convictional in that. If I put myself first, I wouldn't be able to love the way I want to love. So there was an equal sign there. So you work a lot with beliefs. The stakes of stopping the behavior that was making me sick were so high in my mind, right? And this is where the mind can actually like derail the body work, because the intellectual is always going to be able to tell you anything it wants to tell you. Like the brain is very powerful. So when you're just on the intellectual side and you stay in the heady, that's where we sometimes get stuck, because the stories are very compelling. I should not quit my job for this. I should stay in this marriage because of this, but it's literally killing you. But that's still not high stakes enough, because the evidence isn't, you're not dead. There's a couple of beliefs in there that were really helpful to me. Like I am worthy of feeling good. I had just gotten used to the belief like I never feel good, but I can keep going. So I kind of had to replace that belief with this new belief, and the fear that comes up in making those changes and then not really understanding what those changes could be. I think what leads to the abyss, this idea that I feel like I am gaslighting myself with this vision, right? Like, I saw myself that way, but like, whatever. Okay, anyone can write anything on a piece of paper and say it. I'm still feeling like my eating disorder has a control of me. My chronic illness has control of me. Nothing in my life has changed 3D wise, which is also always a lie, which is why I love the blueprint, because it makes you keep a journal of gratitude. So you can't gaslight yourself that is not working, because you have to write the notes of what you're seeing and feeling and hearing. And so then all this evidence is there and your brain can't fight you because the evidence is real. I think that moment where I'm not seeing the 3D change that I feel like I was promised in the time that I was promised it really is where people quit. Talk to me about the precise way to handle that.
This is a hard pill to swallow. So I say this with love because I've been there, because I was on my own journey. Part of what we have to release is the outcome. Like part of what we have to surrender is the outcome. And so I know that sounds a little contradictory, because we have this vision statement, which is obviously like giving us this idea of like, that's the outcome. That's what it's supposed to be. This is what I'm going for. So then when it doesn't arrive, we're like, well, I'm not getting my ROI, my return on investment. I see this in two ways. The vision statement is there to push you to see how low your bar was set and raise it. You have decided that what's around you is good enough. Your illness is here to say it's not. This is not good enough. You deserve more. You are more. You are here to be more. The whole surrender piece is saying you have to surrender to the outcome and surrender to what that's going to look like, because sometimes illness doesn't resolve, and that's a hard pill to swallow. I have one person in particular has like a skin condition, and it gets better, but then it flares up. And it's sort of this like barometer for her of like, she knows what it's about. She knows what its message is. And so when it flares up for her, she knows things are happening in my life that I need to sort of like tune back into and like recalibrate. So she's in this different relationship with her body. But I think the ultimate thing for me is, you know, in this culture, in the world, we have very black and white thinking where we think like, success looks like this, where I am symptom-free, and we have this like checklist of what it looks like. But the reality of life is that life is challenging, and it has challenges, and it's imperfect, and it fluctuates, and it changes. And so my job is to change people's relationship with their bodies and with their illnesses so that they can have an ongoing conversation to help their ongoing evolution in this life. And using that as sort of a way to like come back into your body and feel safe here, so that you can be in partnership of like co-creating your life with yourself and not continuing to grasp onto these outside things or these outside ideas that can always make you feel like you're coming up short. Like, oh, if you're not symptom free, you have failed. Or if you don't have this much money, you have failed. Or if you don't have this kind of like house and partner, you have failed. This journey is all about letting go of those external things and coming home to yourself and saying, like, what is it for me? Like, what does that look like for me? As you're doing this work, sometimes, not always, but the symptom stuff kind of becomes secondary, because more so than anything, it's a journey to really understanding who you are. And sometimes you are a person with X symptom. It's this surrendering to like acceptance of, this is the journey I'm on. This is part of my evolution. This is part of my co-creative like way of being in the world. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like we think there's like a there, like I arrive there and then life is good. And for me, it's no, your life is right now. So how do you live with who you are right now? How do you accept who you are right now? Obviously holding this image in your mind of like, I'm going to keep moving and creating and evolving my life forward, but I'm not going to hate who I am right now and hate it so much that I feel like I'm always trying to get away from it, because that can in and of itself become a problem.
You relieved that of me. You healed that in me. The tools inside the blueprint are full of, like I said, classroom type things where she's teaching about these different subjects and like how to move through them with these exercises and journaling. But then there's also this toolkit of meditations, hypnosis, EFT, tapping. One of the things that she created with one of her partners, this hypnosis, which is kind of like a hybrid of if like you're thinking hypnosis like some sort of witchy thing, like it totally is, but it also was a hybrid of like a meditative state and hypnosis. It's just a really beautiful kind of talk you through getting out of your head and into their sensory mode and going somewhere kind of a little more magical than where you are. And in one of those modalities, there was this trick she taught. She had your meditative self or your hypnosis self kind of put her thumb and her pointer finger together as a like reminder that if you ever want to feel the way you're feeling right now in this hypnosis, which is like calm and held and seen and strong, like you can just put your two fingers together. So when I first started this journey with Dr. Erin, I really thought that I did need to get rid of all my symptoms. I thought that is what I should do. And that was my Capricorn type A movie producer achiever. And then I realized, because I had to surrender because it was getting so hard to continue to try to do that every single day. And then I didn't trust anything. I didn't trust the food I was eating. I didn't trust what I had read. I didn't know what to trust. I'm still building trust with food because of all of the narratives in the world about how bad our food is and you can't eat anything. It kind of became this fixation. And then she gave me these tools for somatic flare-up. For me, the flare-ups can be digestive. Like for days, I can't digest my food. It can be migraines. I cannot literally get out of a dark room. Migraines are so bad. And mine was chronic ear infection. So even like last night, trying to go to sleep, I had some tinnitus, and it's like, that's just part of the healing. But the gift that Dr. Erin gave in the surrender part was that she gave you these really simple tools to get yourself back in your body. Because that is the thing we're not teaching. I did not learn that in 20 years of therapy. And I've been to lots of great therapists that have helped me in so many different ways. But when you have a chronic illness and you have a flare-up, it can take your day. It's a time thief. It can steal your whole day. And it is a devastating feeling, especially when you want to love your people and be there and show up to everything. It's really good to hold faith or hope that you will maybe one day not have these symptoms ever again. While you're doing that, it's about returning to the self as often as you possibly can. She has laid out some really distinct ways. And I can tell you firsthand that I have been in the middle of a flare-up in the last week or two. And I have taken my fingers and I have put them together and I've put my hand on my heart and I have just like returned to that self that I got to imagine in those meditations and hypnosis, this version of me that is strong and is healthy and is capable and is empowered. And it has literally stopped the flare up in its tracks to really understand that this is about management of the self and having access to information that helps you do that and can keep you from staying down in the abyss for too long.
The key paradigm shift that I advocate for is that when we experience symptoms, it's always like meeting yourself exactly where you're at, allowing it to be real, accepting it. So you can say like, oh shit, like I'm sick again. I hate this. This is so uncomfortable. And recognizing, and my body is communicating with me. My body is talking to me. My body is calling me in. Symptoms are the way our body gets our attention. This is where I think we really get it wrong with Western medicine, where our primary and often only focus is to just get rid of the symptoms. Again, I don't have any issue with like taking medication or improving quality of life, but when that's the only thing, we're cutting off a core relationship here. And so, yes, if we can think of our symptoms coming up as like, my body's asking me to tune in. Most of the time we can probably be like, yeah, I haven't had any water today. I slept like crap last night. I'm super stressed about this project. Like, we can start to tie some things together, it's not always a huge mystery. And so it's this invitation to drop in and be like, what do I need? Because ultimately your symptoms are, ironically, maybe trying to move you toward a better quality of life. Yeah, like you said, like it can stop you in your tracks. And like, that's the point, right? Like the point is whatever tracks you're walking are not really good for you in the sense of like, maybe you're going too fast and you're like all in your head and you're clenching your jaw and you're not breathing or you're skipping lunch. It's not saying what you're doing all across the board is wrong for you. It's just saying mostly how you're embodying yourself and how you're thinking of it and how you're in relationship with it. That's what needs to shift. Here's some symptoms to like slow you down, sometimes completely stop you, for you to tune in and say, what is going on? What do I need to do? We can get really annoyed because we want to just keep going. We're all in this like go, go, go production mindset. This is how we've been programmed to be in the world, and we don't like stuff getting in our way. And so sometimes I think it is a rude wake-up call because it's forcing us to reconsider our life path and how we're in our bodies and embodying our lives. So it can be unwanted, at least initially. My goal is to get us to shift our perspective to say, okay, yeah, I'm not super psyched about this, but I do understand that like how I'm living my life ultimately isn't going to get me to where I want to go. And so these symptoms are here to get me a better quality of life as I lean into them more and learn how to listen to them. And sometimes doing that does lead to symptom resolution. So it's not so much about like getting to this pristine 100% health all the time place ever. That's not realistic. It's about being real about what it means to be human. And instead, how can I be in a realistic, healthy, loving, communicative place with my body versus constantly being like, get out of the way, body. I want to do this thing. It's like, that's not who you're here to be. Your body's trying to ultimately get you on the path to becoming who you came here to be. And so the more we can listen to it, the more we can actually align to the path that leads to the best life we can have.
With my mom dying at 54 and getting diagnosed at 44, I am her like DNA replica. Like people think I'm her at times. All our photographs are side by side. And so I had this belief that I wasn't going to live very long. And it was really interesting how that belief didn't manifest as me seeing it as I'm not going to live very long. It was almost like it made me not want to be alive. I don't know. It was a really interesting trap that I could never get out of. And it kept cycling back, kept cycling back. This is about patterns and pattern recognition. Like that's a big component of it. And sometimes when you're first identifying the pattern of thought or belief or choice behavior, you don't exactly know why you're doing that. You just notice that it's a pattern and you're like, okay, curious, let me get in control of this pattern. And I think what Dr. Erin did for me is she gave me my will to live back. It was like, because I could get symptomatic breaks, like because she gave me the gift of being able to manage my symptoms and have time where they weren't there anymore, I got this like will to live back, and it has given me an immense energy. I'm saying all that because I'm a pretty privileged person. I have family that can help me, loan me money. I can take out loans because I have the privilege of a good credit score after having a lot of success in work and career. And so I fit this society's version of loanable. But it's really expensive to get good health care. It's extraordinarily expensive to get good healthcare in this country. And it has not been the easiest, most direct road for me the last 12 months to figure out how to afford the care that I need. Even now with health insurance in the new year, the health insurance is more expensive than the self-pay I was doing last year. And so now I'm in this conundrum where I'm paying over $1,000 a month for healthcare, but they're actually not covering my care. And so it's this really awful game we all have to play. I want to ask the question I ask everyone, which is if you could wave a magic wand and give everybody a gift, what would that gift be?
It would be the gift of feeling safe in your body. It would be the gift of knowing that your body is so wise and that everything that it does, everything it like produces or feels, there's intelligence behind it and there's meaning behind it, and it's always for you. The body is wired for survival. It is wired to keep you alive. It is wired to keep you safe. It's only ever going to do something that is uncomfortable if it feels like that is in your best interest. I don't want people to feel like they're failures if their symptoms don't go away. I want them to feel like they have a very wise body who is advocating on their behalf to continuously bring you into deeper alignment with who you are and what you need. How can I get quiet? And like, thank you, body, for bringing me in. What do you need? What do we need to feel better, to have a better life? That would change everything. You know, that would just change so much and change so much of how we are in relationship with illness and our bodies and with each other. So that would be...
That's amazing. Sometimes when my clients are getting really emotional or hard on themselves, I kind of switch my tone and I'll be like, hey, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I have a client that's like this gentle voice, like, and it's like I had to start using that on myself. Like, hi, body. Hey, body. I hear you there. You know, it's like, it's just like you would talk to your little kid who's like, my elbow hurts. I hit my elbow. Oh,
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry about that. So I love that you said that. My last kind of way to wrap us up, Erin, is I know you've made a pivot recently from literally giving the modality of somatic work and the gift of the sacred illness community to now teaching others to be practitioners. And I am so excited about this. I cannot wait for more people to know to do what you do.
There's like a whole business journey that I went on that mirrored my personal journey. After doing a ton of work, my business shifted in a way that I didn't expect, not because of like doing the right funnel or running the right ads, but because I did some inner work that finally shifted my relationship with my work. And then literally I went viral last October. So like I have a huge audience now that I've never had before. And a long time ago when I was working with a business coach, she was like, you should teach people this. At the time I didn't even have the blueprint. I was like, what would I teach? Like, I don't even know what that means. But then when I went viral, I just kept getting literally over and over and over again messages from people like, do you teach this? How do I learn this? How do I do what you do? So my whole thing with like the surrender piece of this work is being open to that. You know, like it felt right in my body. It felt right. Like, okay, this feels like it's the next step. I'm getting this message over and over again. And I've done this work enough to know to trust it. And so it's a big leap of faith for me. So I'm basically taking this leap of faith into teaching practitioners. It's April 2026. The world is crumbling down around us. We know that like stuff is happening. Like the world is shifting. I think the systems that have been, again, oppressive and misaligned in this world are crumbling. To me, part of this is like the medical paradigm has to change. It has to. Like it is not sustainable. It is not healthy. It is not healing anyone. So part of my big mission is to change the paradigm around illness, around how we're in relationship with bodies, in relationship with health. I can't do that on my own. I'm just one person. You know, I have a little corner of the internet now, but it's a little corner of the internet. And so to me, the like message was like, it's time to take this to the next level and become like a global network of sacred illness practitioners who are putting this message into the world and changing how people are in relationship with their bodies. So that's the next step.
I mean, I could not agree more with the premise that we need to empower the people to help themselves in any way we can, in any area that we can. And education is such a magical tool, and to deploy it through individuals that want to help others is so effective. There's no more tried and true modality. Yeah. It's like person to person, human connection, and the depth of holding space. And then to have this toolkit that you've created to then apply some really amazing modalities that will allow people to make the change they want to see in their lives and in their bodies is just, I think it's the only way we survive. I feel like this practice that you've created is about empowering the individual to take care of themselves. And I can't see a better way to spend your time. I'm so grateful for the choice you made to heal yourself and then to be inspired enough and courageous enough to then say that out loud and then help all of us. Like, you know, that's a lot of courage to go against the narrative of the society and say, wait a minute, I'm going to call out something really, really egregious, but also that nobody wants me to say out loud because it will destroy the belief system that we've had around the medical care. And so many more practitioners are doing that now, but it doesn't make it any less courageous or risky to go out and say, hey, I actually don't agree with this and I have a different way. And then to be willing to use your time to teach others so that they can deploy that even more is just exactly what Love Lizzy loves. Yes. It's what we love here. And that's why we're so glad that you came to share this with us. Is there anything else you want anyone to know before we wrap up?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to talk about this. I know this work is challenging. I know what I say is challenging. I think the biggest people pleaser-y thing I had to get over was exactly what you just said, which was to just say the truth out loud. And whether or not I felt like I'm saying things against the medical system, I'm saying things that are very contradictory to what we think about illness. I'm also saying that not everyone is going to be symptom-free. Like, a lot of that is hard to say out loud. I think it's hard to tell the truth, especially around health care stuff, because there's so much at risk and there's so much emotion tied up in it. And I think that's what's missing in healthcare is humanity and feeling safe with someone. My whole thing behind holding space for someone is however you are, it just makes sense. Like, you make sense. Everything you're feeling, everything you're experiencing, it makes sense. How can we hold space for it? And in that space, when we feel safe enough to just be like, this is who I am with all my messiness and all my whatever, that's when we start to feel courageous enough to become who we are. And that is the change I want to see in the world. And that's the change I want to see in the medical system. So that is the mission. The work that we did together was so beautiful. So just thank you for your trust in that and for being willing to talk about it and share that with people too. My big question is, who is your illness inviting you to become? I deeply believe we are here incarnated on this planet right now at this time for a reason. And our illnesses are not in the way of that. It is the way to finding, like, who are you here to become? What is your role to play in this evolution, in this like world change that's happening? It doesn't mean you have to become the next president, like, God forbid. But it means that, like, you're here to be you. And by being you, we create the safety for others to be themselves. And then we don't feel like we have to go bomb people because we actually all feel safe in ourselves. And so that's the, obviously the big vision that I probably will never see in my lifetime. But I just am excited to be part of this change that's happening.
Yeah. And let's just pretend that we can and keep working on it, right? It's like, That's the difference between a goal and an infinite goal. It's like, I don't know that I will eradicate violence against women and girls in my lifetime, but I'm sure going to try. And every little moment that it creates an opportunity for a woman and a girl to be safe or in a safe environment, we've achieved the effort that we need to be putting in to potentially achieve the infinite goal. I think that that's what's hardest in times like these is like you start to lose sight of a better way because the current way is so awful and in your face, and they want it to be that way. They want you to be paying attention to their darkness. I can remember my mom being really close to all the nurses at the cancer center. And when she was told that they couldn't help her anymore, the nurses were so sad. They were coming up to her. They were crying. They were thanking her for caring about their kids. Because my mom would sit at chemo and like give therapy. She could not be who she was. I get emotional, Erin, thinking about like if my mom would be here, if someone like you would have been there. We'll never know, but I would really like to create that for other daughters and sons of parents that are dealing with chronic illness and they feel like they're not going to make it to their kid's wedding or they're not going to make it to their graduation or, they're living with that real heavy fear because their chronic illness is so debilitating and they can't show up for how they really want to be. And I just want to give anyone who's experiencing that or has a parent or a loved one that's been dealing with chronic illness to just take a look at the sacred illness community. It's like, I don't care if you buy anything from Erin, but just start following her and allow that person in your life, whether it's you or someone else, to just have an outlet where like dealing with chronic illness is not your whole identity, and have a little hope and inspiration that maybe you will surpass this mountain that you're climbing and get to the top and still have life left. And so I'm just so grateful for what you're doing. And I will pass this torch as many times as I can to give people the opportunity to feel the way I feel because of the work with you. So thank you so much. I really am grateful.
So grateful to know you and to work with you and the work that you're doing. I'm so grateful for this platform you have and the way you're changing people's lives. And it was just such a pleasure to get to know you through our work and just to see your beautiful spirit and your light as well. And I'm excited to see it continue to glow and grow. And I think what we all need is hope. And there is another way. There is another path. There is another reality, but we have to create it. We have to take the active steps. It's just finding the courage to cross that threshold, to answer the call and cross the threshold. And just trust that if we take each step at a time, we will find our way forward. We just need to connect more and more with people who are doing this. There's strength in numbers, and the more of us doing it, the better. Thank you again for letting me be here and share my way of moving this forward as well.
Totally. I can't wait for everyone to listen. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
This podcast is produced by Love Lizzy. Our editor is Kayla Hill, and the music is by my very own sister, Julia Sabatine. If you like what you heard here, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.